So today we're going to be covering a very common scenario that you're going to come up against if you're building anything except a very simple app. So if you're going to be building an app that's going to be doing something interesting, something useful, you want it to differentiate, you want to provide some interesting functionality to the users, you are going to be dealing with this issue. And so in today's video, I'm going to be showing you what that issue is in a very simple and direct way that you can solve this issue once and for all and make your app both more powerful as well as easier to use for your amazing customers. Now, before we get started, as always, all the apps and all the resources that I discuss on this channel are available to view and or clone from my Patreon page. And you can learn more about our amazing, rapidly growing Patreon community using the link in the description below the video. So I've built here a very simple FlutterFlow app. It only has one widget that does something but doesn't do something else. And in order to show you what's happening, let's go ahead and run this app so that you can see what's the issue that most of you, if not all of you, are going to be up against at one point in time or another. All right, so here's the app, and this app, like I said, only has one widget, and so I can type something here and it's nice enough to display what we're typing. So that's a benefit right there. Now, let's say you want to do something more, okay? One of the users in our private community came up to me and he said, "Hey, James, I really like FlutterFlow, but I'm looking to solve this particular issue and I don't know how to solve it. I want the ability to be notified where exactly the cursor is." Okay, so for instance, if I type this, the cursor you see is at the end of the word, or if I move the cursor, you see the cursor is now in this kind of second position, or if I put the cursor in the beginning of the word, the cursor is now in the beginning position 1 or 0, and I want to know exactly where the cursor is. And the reason he needs this cursor information is because he's building a very specific app that needs to do some text manipulation, but it needs to know where the cursor is, because depending on where exactly the cursor is in the word, he needs to do specific logic, okay? And so if you take a look at this text input, there's really no way to tell where the cursor is. Now we can go back to our app and we can click on this text input field, this text field here, and this is a standard stock text input field provided by FlutterFlow. So if I click here, I can actually do a lot of things with it, right? So if I scroll down, there's so many options. So I can make it a password field, I could show a clear field icon, I can do autofocus, I can do even autocomplete, I can do autofill hint, update page on focus change, update page on text change. Another thing that I can do is I can click here on the actions and I can open up my action flow editor, and this is where I can get notified on various events. So if somebody submits some piece of data in this text field, I can get notified. If somebody changes something, I can get notified. Or if the focus changes, right? So if I go to another field or I go back to this field, I can get notified. But there is no action that will tell me where the cursor has moved. Okay, there's no way for me to figure out where exactly the cursor is. And this is a big problem if you're building a specific type of app. Okay, and so what I'm getting at is, you know, all of these stock widgets are great, they do a lot of things, but in many situations we don't want to build a new app from scratch. We don't want to build an app that does all of these, you know, things completely differently. In many situations, what we really want to do is we want to take this stock functionality and we want to enhance it. We want to improve upon it. Okay, we don't want to create things from scratch. We just want to add maybe a feature here, a feature there. We want to make it something unique. We want to have it display something or change or add a little bit of behavior to it, as the case is with this specific situation here, where a member of our amazing private community wanted to add the ability to figure out where the cursor is. Now, because FlutterFlow is actually Flutter behind the scenes, you can do a ton of things. You can do pretty much anything that you want. And so here I have another page where I created a custom widget that actually displays the cursor position. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you how this works. And so if we go to the second tab here, you will see a custom widget that I built. It's a very, very simple custom widget. I will show you how it works and you will understand immediately. But what's nice about this custom widget is that it actually shows the position of the cursor. So without having any text here, without having inputted any text, the current position is 0. But if I type something, let's say one letter, we see the cursor position is 1. If I type more, it updates in real time. If I delete, it updates. But also, if I move the cursor, it updates. So without me having to delete or edit this text, just by moving the actual cursor with my keyboard or my mouse, you will see this value being updated. And depending on the kind of app that you're building, you may find this functionality very, very helpful. But most importantly, and the point that I want to drive to you guys, is that even if you're not building this kind of an app right now, just being able to do it and being able to add any kind of customized functionality is huge, right? It's going to set your app apart from everybody else, and it's going to enhance the possibilities, right? It's going to open up your possibility as to what kind of apps that you can build. And so this works really, really well. And so we can go back to the app and I can show you exactly what I did. So here's the first page. Here's the second page that displays this custom widget. This custom widget is called custom text widget. If we go in here, this is this custom widget right now. And so all it's doing is it's tracking the position of the cursor in real time. And how exactly is it able to do it? Well, as it happens, anytime you add an input field, you can add a custom controller. It's called a text editing controller. Okay, it's very, very simple. It's not very, very complicated. And when you add this controller knows everything. It knows everything in terms of what's happening with your text. So this is a text editing controller. So anytime you edit text, you know the position of the cursor, you know how you know the length of the characters, you know the actual text, you know everything, you know a lot more than FlutterFlow gives you in their UI. And so as a result of me adding this controller here, I can track something called a selection, and it's based and offset. And this is essentially the position of the cursor. And as a result, you can see this value here. And as I change the cursor, it's updating in real time. Now, many of you might be looking at this custom widgets and thinking to yourself, this is awesome, right? You've just opened up new functionality that FlutterFlow does not provide out of the box. So this is amazing. This is great. But if you think about this a little bit more, many of you might realize, well, this is nice, but how do I make use of this cursor position? How do I actually do something with this value? How do I actually, work with it, right? Because the problem here is that while I have access to, all of these amazing things, such as a text editing control and all of these things, it's all part of this custom widget, right? It's all behaving in its kind of this little black box. Okay, I don't have access to any of this. I just have a custom widget. It works. It does what it's supposed to do. But the problem is, let's say I have an app here. I have multiple pages. Well, how do I access this cursor position? How do I display something to the user? How do I, make sense of this value? And in this case, you have to do something a little bit extra. Okay, it's not enough to build a custom widget. You actually have to make this value here available to the rest of your app. And fortunately, it's also very, very easy to do. It's very, very easy to have the rest of your app know about something that is happening inside of a custom widget. And all you really need to do, and I'm going to be showing you more examples of what's happening here, but in short, all you really need to do is you need to make that value that you're dealing with available to the rest of your app. And this is exactly what these two lines are doing. Remember, in FlutterFlow, you have something called app state and you have page state. And what I'm doing here is I'm accessing FlutterFlow's app state. I have an app state variable called cursor position. And so anytime we're moving the cursor and this custom widget knows about it, I am simply assigning that value back to cursor position. And now my app as a whole knows about it because now it's assigned to an app-wide app state variable. But we're not done yet. There's something else that we need to do, because if you just assign it, FlutterFlow will know the new value, but it's not going to rebuild the page. And so the next thing that you need to do is you need to tell FlutterFlow that we have set a new app state variable and you need to rebuild the actual UI so that it gets displayed. So let me show you what I mean. So if I go back here, and we go to the second example here, you know, the one with this custom widget. What I can do now is I can actually add a widget on my page, a FlutterFlow widget that's going to be displaying a value that's being calculated inside of this custom widget. So let me show you what I mean. So I can simply come here and I can add a text widget. And now we have a text widget, hello world. Let's go ahead and give it a little bit of padding so that it's spaced out. And let's make it a little bit bigger so everybody can see. So this is a standard FlutterFlow widget, right? This is a custom widget. This is a standard widget. Now, because I already have this app state variable here, cursor position defined, it's an integer, I can go back here and I can set this value to get it from this cursor position. I can come in here and I can do this, confirm, okay? And so now this is going to display the current cursor position, okay? And because I can display it, I can use it anywhere in the app, okay? Because it's part of app state, I can have a condition on it. I can display it as a dialog box. I can use it as input to my custom function. I can use it as input to a custom action. It's inside FlutterFlow, okay? Before, it was part of this custom widget, which is nice, but there wasn't much that we can do with it. But now it's part of FlutterFlow, which means that you can do anything that FlutterFlow allows. Now let's go ahead and rerun it and see what happens. All right, so here's our app. We're gonna go to the second page here, and as you can see, cursor position is 0. This is our custom widget. Okay, so this is correct. There's nothing in there, and our pay app state variable is 0. Now, let me go ahead and type something in and see if it works. Okay, so I just typed hey, and as you can see, cursor position is now 3, but this is 0. Now, why is this? Shouldn't this be 3 as well? If I type something else, this is updating correctly, and this is still 0. If I go back to 0, this is 0, but this is still 0. It's not updating. Well, the reason it's not updating is because we still need to do one more thing to have it all connected perfectly. And that one thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we are telling FlutterFlow to rebuild the page because we've set a value. So now that we've set the value, we need to tell FlutterFlow to rebuild the page. And that's also very, very easy to do. So if we go back to custom code, custom text widget, if we scroll down, you see I'm setting the value, but that's not enough. I need to also call a function, right? So I have the CB. What is the CB? Well, this CB is this thing here. What is this exactly? Well, if I remove this, I can add it again. So if you click on add parameters and you call it CB, what I'm adding here is an action. Remember, these are parameters. These are essentially inputs to our custom widget. So your custom widget can accept an icon. It can accept an integer, double, string, dimensions, image path, video path, etc. But it can also accept something called an action. Now, what this action does is that when you pass an action, you're essentially calling a function that this custom widget can execute whenever you want, whenever you tell it. Okay, so we're not passing, you know, an integer or a string. We're passing a piece of code that we can execute here, and that's called a callback. Okay, so essentially we're passing in a piece of code that does something that we're going to define in FlutterFlow, but can get executed from inside of our custom widget. And I'm going to be showing you more examples so that you're 100% clear on this. But right now, what we need to do is, because we've passed that callback from the outside, I'm going to show you exactly how we're doing it. Inside this custom widget, as we have here, we need to execute it. But we're not going to be executing just randomly, right? We need to execute it after we have updated our app state. So as you can see, I'm updating this app state, and here's I'm executing. I'm saying widget.cb. Why it's CB? Because this is CB, because we called it CB. You can call it anything else, and then you need to do widget dot whatever you called it. Now, once you place this custom widget in the UI and you select this custom widget, on the right hand side, you're going to have all the properties, right? These are all the standard properties. Now, if you scroll down, you're going to have your custom widget properties, and these are the properties that you defined when you were creating this custom widget, right? So we have things like width and height. but we also have the CB, right? This callback right here. And so remember, inside the custom widget, we're updating app state, but then we're also calling this callback, okay? So we're going to be passing something and it's going to call it. Well, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, so we have that custom widget, we're setting the new app state variable, and then we're executing this CB to tell FlutterFlow to rebuild the UI because now we've updated our app state variable. And so this is the function that you need to define that will refresh the UI. Okay, so this CB is actually an action flow. So if we open it up, you're going to be seeing an action flow editor for this custom text widget, which is our custom widget. Now, the question is, what exactly is going to be the code here? How do we tell FlutterFlow to refresh the UI? How do we tell FlutterFlow to rebuild everything so that we can see that new value there for the text field that pulls the value from our app state? Well, here's the trick. The way you do it is you need to add an action and you need to set your app state variable here. Okay, when you set any app state variable here, you can specify that you want this whole page to be rebuilt. So let me show you. So if you search for app state, you're going to see update app state. And anytime you're updating app state, you have an option. You can rebuild all pages, you can rebuild current page, or you can do no rebuild. In our case, we just need to rebuild the current page. Okay, very, very important. Now, we also need to set the field that we want to update. And there's really no point of doing it because remember, we're updating the field in the custom widget. Okay, we just need this to rebuild the current page. And so what we can do is we can add this field, this cursor position. This is the same one that we're updating in the custom widget. And what we can do is we can have a dummy operation. Okay, we can do an operation that doesn't really do anything, but it will still rebuild the page that we needed to do. So we're going to do a set value and we're going to go to app state cursor position. So what we're doing is we're setting cursor position to cursor position. Okay, it's a dummy operation, but nevertheless, it will do what we want it to do. The end result will be exactly what we want. And in this case, it's going to rebuild the current page. Okay, so let's go ahead and rerun the app so that you can see this new behavior. All right, so here's our app. Let's go ahead to the second page. It's at 0, 0. Let's try typing something. So if I type, hey, you see this is updating as it should and as it was before. But now we have the all-important app state variable, FlutterFlow's app state variable being updated. So if I type hey again, it's 6 now. Okay, so now your entire app has access to this app state variable. You can do anything that you want. And most importantly, you have access to this cursor position that you did not have before. And so now you can display it anywhere in the app. You can remove it here. So for instance, I can go back here. I can go to our custom widget, custom code, custom widget, and I can remove this part here where we have this text here, right? So I can remove it here. I can remove this here also, save it right here. Everything looks good. And now I can go back here and I can say cursor position. I can copy this. And what I can do is I can just come here and I can do combine text. And I can do cursor position. Current cursor position is, and paste that variable, which is going to display this cursor position app state variable, confirm. And now it's going to be displaying it here. Let's go ahead and reload our app. And here's our app. Let's go ahead to the second page. And now it says current cursor position is. And if we type something, you see it's updating automatically. So as a result, we build a custom widget that inputs text. But now we have some extra functionality. We're using this text editing controller to give us a lot more information, to notify us of pretty much anything that we want in this case. In this case, this is about a cursor, but you can take it, you know, sky's the limit. You can do so many things with it that are really not provided by FlutterFlow, right? FlutterFlow gives you some things, but it doesn't give you a lot. And so by leveraging this technique, you can build apps that are going to be a lot more powerful. Now, if you're still confused as to why this works, well, let me show you a very, very easy to follow diagram, okay? So this is FlutterFlow app state management, okay? This is the standard behavior. This is how FlutterFlow works without custom widgets, right? Just out of the box. So if you just learned about FlutterFlow right now, today, you don't know anything, you just know the UI, just how you can drag and drop widgets. This is exactly how it works. So we have the user, We have the UI, and you have some logic here. Now, let's say this logic is updating state, right? Very, very common scenario. We're all going to be using state, regardless of what kind of app that we're going to be building. What happens here is that anytime you change any of the values in your state, so let's say you have a state variable called name, and you change it to James, you can tell your state anytime it updates the value whether to rebuild or not. Remember how I show you that flow? And if you set it to rebuild the current page, FlutterFlow will rebuild the page for you. So FlutterFlow knows that, okay, we've updated state, and it understands that when people update state, they typically want to rebuild the page, because that's how you build apps. You have the user, they're doing something with the UI, we're modifying state, and then we're telling the system to update the UI so that the user can see a newly refreshed, newly rebuilt UI with this whatever they're doing, with some new values of whatever they're essentially doing. And so this diagram demonstrates FlutterFlow's standard behavior. This is how it's going to happen anytime you're updating state and you're telling FlutterFlow to rebuild the page. This is exactly what happens behind the scenes. Now, it's a very, very common scenario that we may want to enhance or improve on or add some functionality to an existing FlutterFlow widget. And in this case, we need to create a custom third-party widget. And so when we need to do that and we create a custom third-party widget to kind of enhance the functionality, provide something, make it do something that it couldn't do before, the way it's going to work is demonstrated in this diagram. So on this left-hand side, we have the standard FlutterFlow stock behavior. This is exactly what you saw previously, right? This is the same diagram. And once we've created this functionality, this custom widget, and we've tested it and it works, and they're very, very simple to do. I'm going to be showing you some more examples a little bit later in the video. We need to communicate back to FlutterFlow and tell it that some data changed. And so we need to tell it what kind of data changed, what was the data that it was changed to, and most importantly, we need to tell FlutterFlow to rebuild the UI. Okay, so this is exactly what's happening. This is our custom widget. So we have this new custom widget that we built. Maybe it's a text input field. This is this UI. There's some logic, so things that I showed you with the text editing controller, etc., etc. But most importantly, this is the first step, and this is where we're using something called ff_app_state to set our variable inside of a custom widget. Some of you may know about this, but what many of you may not know about is that we need to have this custom widget callback. Remember, I called it CB, and we need to call it inside of our custom widget. And then on the FlutterFlow side, we define it to have a dummy operation, because it needs to have that app state operation there, because that is the only operation that allows you to update the UI in a seamless manner. And because we have updated our app state inside of the custom widget already, we've updated it, right? We create a dummy operation, a dummy app state operation where we update the app state. Basically, we're updating the value to the same value. So I'm saying, I want to update cursor position. I'm setting the value to cursor position. It's a dummy operation. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to break anything, but we get access to this very, very important and crucial rebuild current page. So as a result, we are able to rebuild the current page. Now, obviously, you have access to this entire callback. So you can display a dialog box. You can display, a snack bar if you want. So for instance, I can come over here and I can say, well, I want to let the user know that the cursor position was changed. So I'm going to show a snack bar. I'm going to say something like cursor position changed. Okay, we have access to the entire flow. This is what's amazing about FlutterFlow, is that we have access to create a custom widget. But when we call a callback, this callback can be as simple or as complex as we want. All right, so here's our app. Let's go ahead to the second screen here. And here we have a custom widget. We have a standard widget that's linked to this custom widget. But remember, we also added a notification. So it's going to be displaying this snack bar. So let's see if it works. So cursor position changed, right? Because we set the cursor. Okay. And so now if I type something, hey, it says here cursor position change. It says here cursor position change. Now it's not clear, what cursor position change. We can also have it say something like cursor position change to something else. So we can do that. So we can simply come over here, open our custom action flow here. And what we can do is we can do something like this. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to do combine text, cursor position change to, and remember, we have our app state that we have modified inside of this custom widget. Cursor position confirm. And let's make it a little bit shorter, so like maybe 500 milliseconds. And let's go ahead and reload our app. All right, so here's our app. Let's go ahead to the second screen. All right, this is our page. Now, if I type something, it just said it. Hey, cursor position changed to 3. Okay, it's a little too fast. To 4, to 7. You see that? And it cancels the previous dialog box, which is exactly what we want, to 11. Now, if I move the cursor to 0, to 1, to 2, and this allows us to have our cake and eat it too, because we can create a custom widget that does something amazing that's beyond what FlutterFlow provides. And don't get me wrong, you can do a lot of very, very powerful things with FlutterFlow, but sometimes you want that extra functionality, that extra feature or two that FlutterFlow does not provide out of the box, as is in this case, and also a couple of cases that I'm going to be showing you in a couple of moments. And as you can only guess, that opens up a ton of possibilities and opportunities for the kind of apps that you can build. Let me show you a couple of other things that you can do using this amazing technique. In this next demo, I have a custom widget that displays the length of text. So just like with the cursor position, we can also easily get the length of text. And this custom widget is called Custom Text Widget Simple. And if you go back here, this is this Custom Text Widget Simple. And all we're doing is we are using this text controller and we can get the text and the length. And you don't have to worry about this. You can ask ChatGPT to generate this code. I didn't know about this, right? I had to research it. I had to learn about it. But what's crucial here is that we can let the rest of our app know what's happening with our text field, right? The length of the text, the cursor position, all of that. So in this case, I'm going to uncomment these two important lines. And as you can see, we're still reusing that same app state variable, this cursor position. But I also have the CB callback. Okay, so I'm going to save this here. I'm going to get out. I'm going to select my custom widget. I'm going to scroll down. And I'm going to open this flow editor, and there's nothing here. And of course, depending on what you want to do, if you want to display a text field, a text widget that depends on app state, then you need to do that little trick that I showed you in the previous example, right? Where we have that operation, we update app state using a dummy operation, a dummy op, and as a result, it rebuilds the whole page. But here, I just want something simple. I just want to have a snack bar that's going to be telling us the length of that input field. So anytime it changes, you're going to be seeing a new snack bar. So we're just going to search for snack bar, show snack bar, and I'm going to do combine, just like in the previous example, length, text, length, add text, and we're still reusing that cursor position in this page, right? We're using it for a different purpose. That's absolutely okay. And let's go ahead and make it 1 second, and let's hide the previous snack bar so that we can immediately see this new notification. Okay. All right. So here's our app. Let's go ahead to the third screen here so that you can see this new functionality. Now, if you type something, hey, it's telling us text length is 3 because we have 3 characters. If I type hey again, text length is 6 and it's being displayed here. I type something again, text length is 9, it's being displayed here. And in this case, it's very, very similar to the previous functionality. We create a custom widget that gets control of something called a text editing controller that pretty much knows everything and anything in terms of what's happening in this text input. So it knows the cursor position, it knows how much text was selected, it knows the text length, it knows everything. Now, in this specific example, obviously, you do not need to create a custom widget. I know some of you are going to write that in the comments, but wait, James, you don't need to create a custom widget to calculate text length. And you don't, because you have access to all of this here. And yes, in this case, all you can do is create a standard input text field here, come over here, go to events, and you can do unchanged, and that's going to trigger anytime that you change the text, and this way you can calculate the length of the text. But I wanted to show you another option, and this option is important in those situations where you do not have built-in FlutterFlow functionality concerning specific things that you want to do. Maybe you want to display selected text, or you want to display cursor position, or you want to do a number of other things that it's just not possible to do with FlutterFlow. Now, the best part about this technique is that it makes it super easy to leverage third-party widgets in your FlutterFlow app. Now, you may be asking yourself, why would I want to use third-party widgets if FlutterFlow comes with a ton of widgets? Well, maybe you want to use a calendar widget, but you want to use a widget that gives you some extra functionality over the built-in FlutterFlow widgets. So in our case, we might want to use a calendar widget that not only allows us to pick dates, but it allows us to do selections on the screen. So here I have another page here, and on this page, I'm using a custom widget, and this is a very popular and widely used third-party calendar widget. And this calendar widget can do it all. Anything that you may have ever wanted to do with a calendar, you can do this with a calendar widget. So if you're building an app and you were, concerned that you couldn't do some functionality with a built-in calendar FlutterFlow widget, you will be able to do it with this calendar widget. And so if we go back to our app and we go to this fourth page here, you can see this calendar widget. And what's nice about this calendar widget is that not only can I look at this calendar right here, I can go back a month, I can go forward a month, I can look at different months, but I can also do date ranges, right? So I can select 4, I can select 8, and now we have a date range, and it's actually displaying it, right? I can click out, and now we have 18, and I want to do 18 to maybe 30, and now we have a date range. Now, as you can guess, this is going to be instrumental if you're building an app that needs this functionality, right? So you want to actually display to the user their date range, and this custom calendar widget supports it. And where did I find this calendar widget? Well, if you go to pub.dev, you have something called a table calendar, and this calendar widget has over 2,500 likes. It has 99% popularity, so as you can guess, everybody is using this calendar widget. And it's also very easy to integrate this calendar widget in your FlutterFlow app. So if we go back to my FlutterFlow app, and if we go to our custom widgets, I'm using this custom calendar. Come back here, we have this custom calendar, and that's all it is. I'm using this table calendar, and this is the entire custom widget. It's actually smaller than the previous custom widgets where we are dealing with an input text. And this custom widget is called table calendar. And so all I'm doing is returning this table calendar. And where am I returning it? Well, if you take a look at your stock code that you're pasting, you're going to be returning a container, which is just empty, right? This is just a stock way to build custom widgets. And so what I did was I copied that to editor, and instead of returning a container, I'm returning this table calendar. And what's nice about this table calendar is that you can set all of these amazing settings. You can set the first day, the last day, the focus day, and you can also do ranges, right? You can do range start date, range end date, and most importantly, you have a function called onRangeSelected. And what exactly are you going to be doing in this function? Well, you're going to be setting your app state variables. And so as it happens to be, if you go to app state, I have these two variables called range start and range end. And these are date types. And these variables are app state. So they're available throughout my app. And I'm setting these variables here whenever the user chooses a range, right? So when the user chooses the range, this function knows about the start, the end, as well as the focus date. So I have access to all of that. And so here I am setting these variables. I'm saying range start is start, range end is end, and then I'm calling my callback. And what is my callback doing? Well, let me show you what it's doing. Click on this widget, scroll down. It has just one action. And as you can guess, it's that dummy operation, right? And in this case, I'm just setting range start to range start. You can also do range end to range end if you want. But the most important thing is right here, this rebuild current page. And as a result, we have this range start, range end. And when you're selecting a range, this is reflected. Now, this thing here is part of FlutterFlow. This is this custom widget. This is FlutterFlow. This is no longer part of this custom widget. So let's say I select from Friday the 1st of December to the 31st. And as you can see, it has it. If I select out 3, and this is not set, so I have it set to loading, and I put, I don't know, 28. And as you can see, there's 28. So now you have a beautiful custom widget that lets our app know what the user is doing. And this is the best of both worlds, okay? You don't have to build it. You can just leave it there. You can customize it. There's a lot of customizations. You can customize it to your heart's content. You can customize it as much as you want. But when you're all said and done, and when the user is using your app, right, when they're actually like consuming your app, you have access to what they're doing. And obviously you can display a snack bar message. You can, connect to a database. You can look up various dates, right? If you're building an Airbnb clone, as the user is selecting ranges, we have access to these dates. So even without them having, to press the submit button or actually submit the dates, we have access to these dates. So we can do a, super-based query or a Firebase query, and we can tell them right away, oh, your apartment is not available on these days, or yes, it's available, or there, in real time, 20 properties available on these dates. And that is because this widget is communicating with our FlutterFlow app in real time. Okay, very, very easy to implement and very, very easy to connect back to our FlutterFlow app so that we can start putting this data to good use. Let me show you another example. Have you ever wanted to create a list that the user can search through? Okay, now FlutterFlow has similar functionality, but this is much more customizable. You can do anything that you want with this list. And I am using a searchable list view widget. Okay, this is a very, very popular widget. Arguably, it's not as popular as the previous widget, but this is a widget that you may want to use as well, right? Awesome widget. So let me show you how it works. So this is called searchable list widget. Come back here, searchable list widget, and as you can see, the code for this custom widget is not complex at all. It's also very, very concise, and it may be shorter than the code for the text widgets that we were building in the beginning of the video. Very, very simple. We're using something called a searchable list, which is the name of this custom widget. And the searchable list needs a data type, right? Needs a data type of data to display. And what I did was I created a custom data type. So I have an actor type, could be a person type. And inside that actor type, we have a name. Okay, so this is maybe a list of actors or something. And we have a name. Then I went back to app state and I created a list of actors, which is essentially a list of these data actor types, and I created three people here. So I have James and I have John. So I created 3 records inside this actors that are each of type actor type. And now if you go back here and we take a look at our custom widget, I configured it. So I'm actually passing another parameter. So along with width and height and the CB that we need to call anytime we update state, I'm also passing in the actors, right? So what's nice about it is I defined it in FlutterFlow. I'm passing it here. And then here I'm passing this list, widget actors. This is this actors here. And I want to display the name, right? So, each actor is the item, right? I'm saying, this is the item. I'm displaying the name. And this is our filter. And in this case, we're just filtering by, what the user is typing. So as you're typing, it's going to be filtering, right? So it's kind of like the reverse, right? So you have this autocomplete where it's not showing anything at the start, but as you start typing, it starts showing you things. This is the reverse. We're seeing the list in the beginning, but then you can type and filter the right users that you may be searching for, right? And this is exactly what it's doing. So this is a custom widget, but it also comes with some extra functionality that you're going to see once we run the app. So here's our app. Let's go ahead and take a look at this last page here. And as you can see, by default, we are displaying all the names. So now I can type something like Mike. And as I type M, the character, the letter M, as you can see, now it's displaying James and Mike. Now if I type I, only Mike is there. K-E, Mike. Now, this is actually selectable. I can actually select it. So if I click on it, it says here, clicked an item. Okay, and why does it do that? Well, as you can guess, we're using that technique, this very, very popular technique. And how are we doing it? Well, if you take a look here, we have something called an item selected. And this on item selected needs a callback. It needs a function that it can call anytime we select a particular user from the list, a particular item, okay? And we're telling it, hey, call our callback. We know who you should call. We got a callback for you, okay? If you can put it that way. We're saying it, call this callback, and we're saying widget.cb. And what is this CB? Well, let's go back to our widgets, click on the widget, scroll down, we have this flow editor, open it up, and guess what you see? snack bar. Okay, now this snack bar just says click on item. What if you want to actually display what the user actually clicked on, the name of the person, right, or some other field? Well, that's very, very easy to do. Let's go ahead and define a new app state variable. I'm just going to call it clicked item string create and go back to our custom widget here. And now what we want to do, we don't want it to just call this callback. We want to set what the clicked item is so that the rest of our FlutterFlow app can know what the user actually clicked on. All right, so here's our modified function. So anytime the user selects an item, we set that item to our app state variable called clicked item that we've just defined. And then we call this callback to let FlutterFlow know that we've updated the app state variable. So it can do something, right? Display that value, do a stack bar, a dialog box, update database, etc., etc. And now what we can do is we can go back here, select this here, and open up the flow here. And this snack bar now can actually display the specific item that was clicked on. And you can simply copy this, come back here, text combine text, and you can say clicked on item. And now we can actually display the item that was clicked on. And if you go to app state, we have clicked item. And that clicked item is going to be set to a specific value, okay? So now let's go ahead and restart our app. All right, so here's the app. Let's go to the last page. And here we can search for a specific user such as Mike, John. But if we click on something, it says clicked on item Mike. If we click on John, it should say click on item John. If say James, it's going to do the exact same thing. Clicked on item James. And once again, we were able to link essentially the best of both worlds, right? We were able to create a custom widget with a specific functionality, something that's not provided by FlutterFlow out of the box. And we are able to capture the things that are important to us, namely the events, what's happening with this custom widget, so that we can do something useful with it, whether that's displaying a snack bar, a field on the page, or maybe making a database call or an API call. You name it, it doesn't matter. This means that the hard problem has been solved, and what's left is for you to go out and to build the kind of app that you wanted to build without feeling limited with the functionality that comes with FlutterFlow. You can now create your own custom widgets, use third-party custom widgets, and have it all work together seamlessly. Now, of course, it's not enough to simply watch this video and have me kind of display the different functionalities, the custom widgets, the app state, and how it all works together. You learn best with practice. You learn best with experience, and there's simply no way to gain that practice than by grabbing the apps that I have here in front of me. And once you join our amazing Patreon community that has tons and tons of eager to learn members, people that are building amazing apps, you're gonna get access to this exact app, which means you'll be able to view and or clone it. And when you clone it, you'll be able to see exactly what's happening. You're not going to have any issues. You're not going to have any questions, because you're essentially going to have a copy of this app that I have here right in front of me that you can learn from and experiment with. And most importantly, you can use this as a base for an app that you're going to be building in the future, maybe a more complex app, or perhaps this is an app that you're building right now as well. You can use this app as a base for one of the future components for an app that you're building already. And of course, once you join our amazing Patreon community, you're not only going to get access to this app, you're going to get access to all my apps. And I have over 150 apps that I have built on this channel. They're all there, from simple apps to very, very complex apps to pretty much anything in between. You'll be able to find it once you join our amazing Patreon community. And of course, that's not all. You're also going to get access to some extra content such as Q&As, behind the scenes content, as well as our Patreon supported masterclass series where I do deep dive videos on topics that the community wants to know more about. And in fact, just last week, I did a deep dive on a very, very popular third-party tool that integrates really, really well with FlutterFlow. And a lot of people really, really love that deep dive. And now people are asking me to do more deep dives. And there's definitely going to be more deep dives in the future, but you're also going to get deep dives that I've done before. So you're going to get access to a ton of extra content. And above and beyond, when you join our amazing Patreon community, you're going to be supporting this channel and supporting my work, and that is greatly, greatly appreciated. And so if you're serious about no code, you're looking to take your no code game to the next level, you're looking to improve it, you're looking to build more apps, you're looking to sell more apps, then you should definitely join our amazing Patreon community, and you can learn more about everything that it offers via the link below. And I am more than certain that if you're watching these videos and you're learning new things, you're going to learn a ton more inside of our community.